Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Reagan, and this is a new biopic from director Sean McNamara, who's certainly been leaning into some more faith-based films, and here this takes the approach of the story of President Ronald Reagan, and really focusing on a decent chunk of it, his faith, driving forward his actions, and this film starring Dennis Quaid as Reagan, and by far, I feel like the best part of this film is Dennis Quaid's performance. Dennis Quaid has really been shining in recent years because he is a really talented actor, and I feel like he's getting to that point where it's just like he either needed to find his niche or he's just going to disappear, and he has been starting to lean into these more inspiring stories, faith-based stories, and here I think he embodies that charisma of Reagan, which the one thing you cannot argue against when it comes to Ronald Reagan was he was the great communicator. He could talk. He could get up in front of people and really command a space. And I think Quaid really captures that. He captures the humanity about him. I think there's some really good, talented actors in this film. I don't think this film, which written by Howard Klausner, really does a whole lot of justice to a whole lot of characters. It really just feels like kind of paint by the numbers biopic with paint by the numbers characters, and hopefully you've grabbed a few actors who could inject some personality into these characters, like Penelope Ann Miller, who plays Nancy Reagan. That's a big part, and I think she does a fine job. I think she has fine chemistry with Dennis Quaid. You have the likes of C. Thomas Howell, of course Kevin Sorbo would be in this movie, but you have this whole section with Jon Voight as Victor Petrovich, and his whole entire job feels like it's just, let's cut away to the Russian guy who tells us about how great Ronald Reagan is. And of course Jon Voight would be in a film like this, and his suspect Russian accent, and it's just like, why is this character even here? I thought this movie was supposed to be about Ronald Reagan. I don't need a Russian character to reiterate to me, a member of an American audience, about the greatness of Ronald Reagan. And this film isn't about Ronald Reagan. It's really about the greatness of Ronald Reagan. It is by no means trying to really tackle anything negative about him. And I think the film does a disservice to the story of telling about a human being by avoiding a lot of the flaws that made him a human being. And Ronald Reagan did some pretty bad things, like completely ignoring AIDS and stuff like that, and allowing a lot of gay people to die in the 80s. And this is not the kind of film that's going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It even, to the point, tries to like wink at the camera and be a little cynical about it by having this whole entire montage of people not liking Ronald Reagan to Land of Confusion. And I'm just like, oh, that was a choice. And it's like, how do we show that people didn't like Ronald Reagan but spend at least amount of screen time in this movie focusing on that? Let's make a quick montage to the Genesis Phil Collins-led song Land of Confusion, which was about Ronald Reagan, and how a lot of people built him up as a Superman, and he let a lot of people down, and except for specific groups of people. And the film's just like, yeah, okay, let's gloss over that. This film is also really long. This was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it felt it. Also, from a filmmaking standpoint, it's very sheeny, high gloss, very inauthentic looking, and I guess like the idea is it's trying to be like, ooh, look at this nostalgic look back at Ronald Reagan and how great he was, and it just didn't look great. And McNamara, I've noticed, has that kind of sheen to a lot of his films. I just feel like this film had the depth of a puddle. It focused on a few main things about Reagan, his great communication, his faith, and was happy to just deal with that. And then a lot of the rest of this is just cliche, cookie-cutter biopic kind of storytelling and plotting and characterization. And if you love Ronald Reagan, this will make you happy. If you wanted to go in seeing a film that's going to paint a compelling and interesting and dynamic look at Ronald Reagan, that's not this film. And I don't think this film ever had the intention of doing that. But in the end, this is, yet again, just another one of those biopics that come and go, that takes a really famous figure, high glosses the whole thing, and basically is some greatest hits cliches of what you expect from a biopic. But those are my thoughts on Reagan. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.